Hi guys, it's Suga and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be doing the philosophy of reading tag, 20 questions about how and why we read. This tag was created by Brandon from Brandon's Bookshelf. I will link his channel down below. He does amazing discussions. He discusses Kirky in a way that it was amazing. And yes, it says Kirky because my friend went to Greece and she was reading Kirky, and a Greek man says it's not Cersei, it's Kirky. So it's Kirky. But yeah, he said it's a very chill question. You have 20 questions. You can respond as much as you want. So I don't know how much I'm gonna answer. I didn't look at the questions, as you know. I don't prepare for tags, so I'll just have here down, and that's why I'm looking down on my computer. And I'll just go with the flow with the question. But before I dive into the questions, don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It's very important for us content creator to have that interaction, to get the subscribers, because it will help fight the algorithm and help to motivate yourself to produce more videos and more bookish content for you. And also, it's very important for us. You know, it's each time that someone gets a comment, it brightens the day because it's something. If you want to say something, just write something that it's very simple, or just put emojis, or just do the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't matter if it's a very elaborate one, as long as you just mark that you were here, because it's very important for us to get that confirmation. And yeah, I would like to reach 500 subscribers till the end of the year, so if you want to help, it will be great. But let's start. So the first question is, what's more important, a good character, plot, or message? Definitely, I like a good plot. A good plot captivates me. Even if the characters are poorly written, I can go around it if the plot is really interesting to me. The message is important, yes, but I read sometimes things that don't have messages, you know. Final Empire doesn't have a solid message that you want definitely to pick, but I like Jodie, and Jodie sends a lot of messages through their book. And so I think it depends on the type of book and what type I'm looking for, because sometimes I just want to escape, don't want to think about it. So it's a good plot. The characters, it can save a book. If the plot is not the best, a good character can really elevate the book. But I feel I tend to like more a plot-driven story than a character-driven story, although, to be fair, there are a couple of character-driven stories that I really enjoyed, so I think it depends also on a lot of things, but definitely first the plot, if I'm not to think. 2. Should one read books about ideas or opinions they disagree with? Should or should not, it's not a thing. I think it depends on the type of idea, because if you're saying like someone who doesn't, I like to give examples. Someone who doesn't believe in abortions, or think that people shouldn't have, and read a book about an experience in abortion clinics, or someone who done an abortion, and maybe we'll try to give him another perspective of the perspective that he already has, and that's very important. We should always consider other types of perspectives, and sometimes books, it's good with that. And I don't think there is nothing wrong with reading books that have different ideas or perspective or than ours, or people that we disagree, as long as we don't try to impose ourselves into the others. I think that's a good discussion we have to have. 3. As tech advanced, what do you think will be the role of the books? Sadly, I agree with Brandon on this one. I think books will tend to stop, will have a decrease. Although I see more and more people reading it. I think the ebooks came in audiobooks came in a way to become more accessible. But there is like a culture of having books and having a full library that just feels cozy. So I don't know, but I think in the long term that probably won't be here to see it. Books will end up being printed, will no longer be printed. We will not have physical books, but we'll have stories written in other ways, especially ebooks, audiobooks. I don't think the part of reading and everything or creating a story will end, but definitely the printing part will end it. I don't think will be soon, but it will end eventually, I think. 4. How important are summaries, reviews, and art in your book choosing? Well, first of all, a good cover captivates my attention. Let's not be fools that says covers doesn't matter. It matters. Because, oh my god, if you see a cover and fools captivate you, it takes a little time to pass through. You capture the attention, and then the attention wants you to read the title, it wants to read the title, you want to read the summary, and it goes a flow. A book that has a very interesting cover can pass, oh, it's just a generic one, and the book can be very interesting, and you don't pay too much attention. A review, for me, are important when I don't know if I like the book. there are certain types of books that I know that I will enjoy, definitely, almost, and I want to get them and I read them and I give my own review and I see. There are some books that I don't know that I'm like, maybe, I don't know. And then I start to see people that I trust and see what they think about it and what they thought about the book and what they discussed and try to see if I would like it. I will always take my own opinion, so I will always try to give a chance, unless it's like something that I see really that will bother me and doesn't worth it. Because otherwise, it will end up like being, you know. So reviews and summaries are very important because a good summary and an authentic one can create the true intention. For example, I read The Haunting of Bryn Wilder, and from the cover, from the synopsis, it looked like a horror book or a paranormal, and it had nothing to do with it. It was a romance, and it really bothered me because I was with one expectations and ended up with something that was off, and it really bothered me reading that book because of that. So I think creating false hopes, false expectations does not help you as a writer, or doesn't help the reader, because the reader will create some types of expectations that will not be fulfilled. So I think has to be, in thrillers, should be the most succinct thing ever, because everything in a thriller is more or less a spoiler, so you have to be very careful with it. So I believe that the smallest the better, but I think you have to give some key elements to captivate the reader. Question number 5. Should one ever skim or scan a book? And I think, well, if it's a textbook, it doesn't care, because you just want the information that you need, you know. If I read every single page of my textbooks, I will still be in college. Well, I'm going back as a PhD student, but not as a PhD student. I'll be like in master still, because, well, sometimes they write a lot and it doesn't matter because you won't need half of the information. Now, in terms of, for example, a fiction, I think yes, you can. Sometimes I end up like skipping some part because I'm going to a slump. You know, especially imagine a book that is too descriptive. It's heavily descriptive and it doesn't add up to the story because, you know, it's just too much, or it's just too boring, or it's just, you know, it doesn't add up nothing, because, you know, those phrases like it's explaining all the feelings that people are feeling, and, you know, and you are like, you know, I don't care about this. I got the idea in the first line. I don't need like a page of explanation. So I'll try to, if I'm bored or if I'm seeing I'm going to slump, I try to accelerate that process, like cross-reading a little bit, definitely till the end. Sometimes in the end, if it's a very action packed, I'm seeing something is very like, I start reading important lines like dialogues, and then I go back to see the expressions, because it's building the tension and I don't want to lose time. But definitely I tend to read, and I think should everyone, I think it depends on the context. I think some people skip. If you skip a chapter, it's weird in a fiction, but if it's a textbook or it's just a book for a non-fiction and you don't interest in some topic or something, I think there is no problem. 6. Should reading always be enjoyable? Yes, I think for me, this is my personal opinions in everything. I read for enjoyable, and I don't read if I don't enjoy. I don't will force myself, because for me reading is a hobby. But of course, if you are reading for learning and you don't like, you have to force, because you are like, for example, text schools or something, or non-fictions that you are forcing. But for me, if I remove the enjoyable part of reading, it doesn't left anything left, because I read mostly because I enjoy it, not because I have to. So for me, yes, reading should be always enjoyable for me. Sometimes I'm not enjoying as much, but I had to have some enjoyment there, because otherwise I'll be forcing something that is not good. 7. Isn't important to be well read? And I hate snob people. One of the things that the most annoy me is like, oh, I read classics. Oh, I just read important text. I just read I don't care what you read. Why should we say that in a very arrogant way? Like, oh, I read better books than you do. Like, what? And I struggle a little bit when people start to doing that. Like, oh, I read more this because and it's better. No, it's not better. It's just, it's what we read, and there's nothing else as a well-read people, because we read different things. You know, For example, people who only read fantasy doesn't mean they are well read than me because I read more than fantasy, or I'm better than they're them because I read more genres. It's stupid. I hate some people. 8. What is your book buying process? So, first, I have a book buying tag, so if you want to do it, I'll tag up here. It's very fun, and I talk about this on that tag a lot. But my book buying process is very simple. I see a book, or someone talks a book, I add it to Goodreads. When I'm on the mood to buy books, I went to my Goodreads and see if they are there and if it's a good price. If it's a good price, I buy them. Yeah, basically it's this. When I do my independent releases, I tend to put books and add them all to Goodreads because I'm excited, so I want to read them. And then I just, go with the flow, go seeing the Goodreads. That's why my Goodreads is so high on wanted to read. 9. What is your reading process? I don't have a reading process. I just sit on my bed, I'm comfortable, pick up the book, and start reading. If the book is not going so well, or if I need to be more immersed, I put an audiobook. And the audiobook with the book, it's 10. How do you use what you read? Well, first I do book contents here. If you are interested, I do book reviews. But how do I use it? I don't think I use them in my personal life. I tend to use them as lever factors as a reviewer. I think when you are reviewing, you should be objective to the book. And of course, it's always subjective because you're subjecting to your opinions. But then you cannot judge books the same way. That's what I feel. For example, I cannot judge a middle grade the same way I will judge a YA, the same time I will judge an adult in the same genre. The same thing, I cannot judge one genre based on another genre because they are different. So I'll try to look at my memory and to my tastes on that age. For example, if I pick the middle grade, I won't expect to have as much development as a YA or as an adult book, fantasy for example. If I have, I won't get mad because it's good. But if I don't have it, I will, unless it's something very plain, but then it has factors. But for example, if I have a YA that is less developed than a middle grade that I've read, it's weird because, there are higher standards even in the YA. So you see, I try to use them as leverage. In terms of learning, I try always to get some messages. Definitely not in fantasy, I don't try to kill someone or open portals to different dimensions. But for example, in Jodie, it's a book that always makes me think, and definitely small great things made me think a lot about racism and everything. I think it's a great way to educate white people by a white author, by our own experience also. So I think it was very well done. 11. If you could download a book to your brain, would you still read? So if I know all the story and it's already in my brain, well, I reread, so I probably would say yes, although I know every single detail. I don't know, because sometimes I just want to hang out with that characters. I just want to go with that characters for some time. And I just want to be with them a little bit. So I think I wouldn't mind to read it. Unless it's a thriller. If it was a thriller, no. Because I know the twists, and the thing in the thrillers are the twists. What are your views on rereading books? Awesome. If you can reread it and you like it, no problem. I would like to reread more. As I told you, I would like to reread some series that I want to talk to you about with a better opinion than I have, because I forgot what I've read a couple of years ago, but I don't mind. I think sometimes when you are in a slump or you are not in the mood, reading that or rereading that book that really marked you or that really was important to you in some point, it will give you the boost and it will give you the confidence and it will give you the energy to pick another different book, and that's really good. And I don't think any problem with you reading, 13. What makes a book good? Like I said, depends on the genre. For me, the plot is very important, the characters. I don't tend to look of the writing style. It's not something, maybe because I'm not an English native speaker, so I don't tend to overlook that, if it's very plain or not. I tend to see pacing more, but the writing style itself, I see sometimes it's very flourish or not so flourish, or it's very direct, or it starts to be very childish, but I don't tend to overlook that a lot. I tend to focus more on characters, plot, pacing, and what I was expecting for that book. And I think if you have all of this goods, it's a good book. If it's historical, if it has historical facts correct, nice. if it's a contemporary, if it, I like when books play with tropes. You know, you have the chosen, the chosen one. You play a little bit with the trope. It's not totally the chosen one. It's a little twist, and that's good because that's innovating, and I like that. 14 is what makes a book bad, and I think it's when everything is not done correctly. First of all, bad advertising can make a bad book, because not that the book is bad, but your expectations are wrong towards that book, so your enjoyment has to change, and then you are not in the mood for that, or not playing because it was not what you wanted. Then I think poorly written characters can annoy me, especially when I think they are trying to do weird things. For example, Meet Cute Diary, a lot of people like it. I didn't like it because of the main character, because I think they want to portray him in a way that if I felt it was very unrealistic. Although some people could be like that, but I feel it was very unrealistic and very annoying to follow. That's why I didn't connect as much, and I didn't enjoy the book, because I was like, no, I can't. I want to smack this child. Like, I don't care. It's like, ugh. But definitely a very weakly plot, or a writing choice that it doesn't make sense. For example, Lore by Alison Barker has like flashbacks in the middle of action scenes. I was going with the vibe, you know, big revelation, flashback. And it was not a flashback of one page, it was a big flashback. I was like, no, why? Why? I ended up skipping the flashbacks, reading that scene, and then go back to the flashbacks. And then I saw that it didn't have a lot to the story. So I was like, why? Also, poorly written plots or developments of the world, or ideas, it really bothers me, because sometimes it's like, you could have done so much more. You could have turned this into a much bigger, and you're just going for the safe choice, or just the more simplistic way, and it really bothers me. 16. Should the author's personal life matter at all? I have a strong opinion about this, and I have talked about this in my anti-TBR tag. For me, I separate art from the artist, totally, because we judge the art, we not judge the art. Let me try to put this in other words. I'll give you the most shocking example: Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, and it was a big part of my childhood and in my adult life. I love the books, love the series, love the movies, love the video games. I don't like her at all. I don't believe in what she believes, and I think what she believes is wrong, and I will not support her in the ways that I can't, or for example, not talk a lot, or because Harry Potter doesn't need to talk a lot. It's a big series, why? But I will not judge Harry Potter because of her, you know, because I love Harry Potter, and there are good books, and there are good stories, and it redefined the genre and defined an age on literature, so it has its place. Now, if you're talking about a book that has a problematic message or content, that's different, and that you address in the book. You address that this book has problematic content. For example, Eleanor in Park, I'm curious to read, although I bought it in second hand, to see how the problematic content is integrated in the story, and if I can see it and understand it, why people say it's offensive. Now, just because an author doesn't believe in the same things you do, doesn't mean that the book is bad, or that the book doesn't have value, because there are different things, you know. And I personally separate the artist from the art. But if you can't do it, or if you don't feel comfortable, it's your choice. As it is my choice to continue to read books by problematic authors. 17. If you could read only one genre for the rest of your time, what will it be? Probably fantasy, and I'll explain you why. Thrillers are very much hit or miss. And after you're reading a lot of thrillers, everything starts to seem very similar. Even though they can be very good, you start to get some touch, and you start to get boring. And while in fantasy there are so many types of fantasies and tropes, that it's so much diverse than just thrillers. So definitely I will choose fantasy for this one. 18. Do you ever read a book without knowing anything about it? Yes. Yes, I read. The Last Thing to Burn, Down Comes the Night, 1500 Miles Under the Sun, from the Sun, sorry. You know, I went up fully blind sometimes to books. Jodie, I was fully blind for my first Jodie book. I was with my uncle in south of Portugal spending some holidays, and I always, when I finished a book, my uncle would buy me another one. So we were in the grocery shop, and I finished my book, and he said, "Pick another book, no problem." And my cousin were like, "Oh, do you even like this?" Because the Jodie has like a package, and I said, "Yes, it's the author of My Sister's Keeper." And I haven't read anything, and I didn't know what it was, but I was just marking a point and marking my personality. Yeah, and I ended up loving it. So yeah, I went blind to a book. 19. What author, genre, series, or culture can you just not get into? Why? So genre, definitely poetry I'm trying to get in, but definitely nonfiction is very hard for me. Full erotic romances or the ones like Bridgerton and something I don't tend to like. So I think those are the ones that I can get in and I don't want to get in. I don't know, nonfiction is very personal. It has to be something that I'm really interested about. And those are just ones I don't have interesting. 20. Do you think everyone should read and why? Ideally, yes. But some people just don't like it. People just don't interest in it. But I think also is to blame a little bit the education. Because, and this is a very strong opinion I have, because especially I'll talk my experience in Portugal at school. The texts that we are given are so old, and it comes with a part of has to be intellectually valued, and that comes up. There are some recent books that have such much intellectual value as older books, as classics that we read in Portugal, as you can read in the US or the UK. But we have a part on we can read by our own, we have to do presentations. Why should that have to be restricted to a list and not be the student should choose? You could ask a professor and ask for help, but if you don't like romances, why should you read romance just because it's on the list? Why, if you don't like science fiction, why do you have to pick a Frankenstein, for example? And I think those are the mixed opportunities. Give the students time and give the student a chance to pick whatever they like, and try to encourage them in reading and finding reads that they like. And I think that's what's missing the problem. For example, I'll talk a little bit about my experience in Portuguese classes are. The last 2 years of high school, we tend to read the books. And it's a book per period, and it's only an hour. But you also give grammar, and you also learn this, and you have a lot of things. But then are books that, I don't know, some of them are interesting, some of them are not. Just, I think they need to update a little bit, and I think from a younger age, you could incentive the children to read. Like doing small projects, do small book reading parts, doing small interactions. For example, in middle school, read a book. You have a period to read a book, and then in the end you do a presentation, you do just a resume. I think everyone should read. I think people should be incentivized to read, and I think it's very good for everyone. But if people don't like it, we should not pressure them. I think they should find a book that they like and go with it. I think what's missing here is giving the person the right books and the right opportunities. For example, my boyfriend doesn't like to read a lot, but he read me through 2033 and 2044 1,000 times. He likes that series. He was reading Amos Aragon, which was a series that was cancelled, and now he's trying to republish from where I talked to the author. He wants to read that one. I give him Mistborn. If he likes it, and if he wants to read the rest, I'm happy. But if he doesn't like it, I will not impose him another book. I would ask him, do you want another one? Do you want to try something different? If yes, yes. If no, I still love him, and I think it's what it is. Thank you, Brandon, for creating it. I think it was a very interesting conversation, throwing these questions. I'm not brief at all. I talk too much. That's what I see. If you reach this far, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know all that stuff. You help us a lot. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.